That is right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Get Valiant. It's a special Get Valiant because it's not just Get Valiant. There is my co-host, as always, Eric is here. Josh couldn't make it today, but Eric, thank you for making it on, man.
Yeah, glad to be here. Super stoked to talk about this.
Me too, man. I'm super stoked for many of reasons, right? Number one, a great book, but we also have some friends.
It's always nice to hang out with friends. It's
always nice. First up, we got Martin from Valiant Central. What's up, Martin?
Hello. What's up?
Man, it's a beautiful new comic book days. What's up?
It sure is.
Yep. And then, as well as Martin, you think that would just be enough, right? Most of the time it is, but not to celebrate this. We also got another friend of ours. He does his own show as well. One of two. It's Nick from Valiant Watch. Nick.
Hey, super stoked to be here, ready to talk about Shadowman.
Glad to have you here, Nick.
Yeah. But, Valiant Watch has a two-party show, right? There's usually another guy on board, and that's Ken. Ken.
What up? I hope you guys are ready to talk some Shadowman. Oh, absolutely. I'm excited. Not going to lie. I'm hyped. Dude, I'm very hyped right now.
It is.
Book for like a year.
We have to be hyped about this show just because, it is, Shadowman.
We've been waiting for this for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones that has been around that we've been all ready for, and it's what we're looking for. And then everybody in the chat, thank you for jumping on. We appreciate it. You guys rock. You guys are a big part of the show. But we also wanted to celebrate having one more special person on here. Give me a second. I got to work this computer. And I apologize, guys. I'm out on like a road trip vacation with the family, and so things are a little weird right now with this, and I might have a little technical difficulty, so you guys keep talking without me.
Well, I'm glad that we're finally here. We've been seeing art and previews and little tidbits about Shadowman for a long time now, and it's finally here. We're finally getting to read the first issue. Obviously, we'll dive into it as we can, but I think I can speak for a lot of Valiant fans and say that this is a huge moment for us, finally getting this character back and getting to see the work that this creative team has put into this book.
Yeah, I know everybody's pumped up about Shadowman for sure. It's just curious, who did you guys have as your, who did you want to be on the creative team? Who was like your go-tos?
Not gonna lie, these two.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't think of a better pair. When you're relaunching, you got to bring that A game. So
you guys said it because you knew he was right there. Come on, thanks for having it, man.
What were they supposed to say?
Anybody else? No.
No. What's so cool about this is, Cullen did the Punk Mambo book that was amazing, and then now coming into this, this is such a great transition, and I think this is another awesome character to tackle.
And not to typecast Cullen, but when you think horror comics, who better to write them than Cullen? So,
yeah,
that's what I've always felt like. But
yes, and thank you for joining on with this show, man. We appreciate it, and I think all of us have had the chance to read this book like a month or two ago, and we've been amped. So I know we've kind of talked on the back webs a little bit on it, and extremely amped for it. So it is, guys, we would have said everything we're going to say if Cullen was not on the show. So it's not just kind of building up his head. We appreciate his work. So, yeah. So how did this story, how did you guys come about this creative team? I think it was with Heather Antos as well. How did you guys all get put together?
Well, Heather and I have known each other for a long time. She was one of my editors at Marvel for several years, and we had always been trying to put together a horror book at Marvel, and for whatever reason, we just couldn't make it happen. We just couldn't get the team to bite on it. And then she moved on to other ventures. And eventually that brought her to Valiant. And pretty much from the time she started at Valiant, she contacted me and said, hey, remember how we always talked about doing a horror book together? Now's our chance. And she asked what I would do with Shadowman as a character. And I put a pitch together and sent it in. And there's a line in the pitch, at least according to Heather. There's one line in the pitch that really sold Valiant on doing the book. And I won't tell you what that line is because it shows up in issue 3. So there's the game: is can you figure out what that line is when we get to issue 3?
What do I win if I figure it out?
Yeah.
That's the important question. What do I win if I figure it out?
my respect.
That's awesome. And you know, I guess with Heather leaving though, is it still set to be a long run? What are we looking for as far as run goes? Now that kind of editor stepped away.
Yeah, I mean, the Valiant's still behind the book. We're working on new issues now. So, you know, it's going forward. You know what? Everybody always asks, you know, is this a mini series? Is it an ongoing series? For every book you do, and the answer really is, the truth of it is, every book's a mini series unless people get behind it and buy the books. So I would stick with Shadowman and write Shadowman for years and years if given the opportunity. But you know, it all depends. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have an initial run in mind, but I've already started figuring out what's the next big run after that.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear that you're thinking ahead and that you're willing to keep going on it, because I think all of us fans really want to see a long run. I mean, this first issue was a great start, I think, and I definitely would be happy to see this continue. I thought it was really cool that we got Baron Samedi in this first issue. He's a character who has had a lot of history with Shadowman. Seeing him pop up and kind of be almost like an informant, almost a sidekick. I thought that was a really cool way to use the character, and I hope that as the run goes on, hopefully for a long time, we get to see more of the characters that, and of course new characters, but also some more of the characters that the Shadowman has worked with in the past show up.
Yeah, no, definitely the first 4 issues especially, you're not going to see many backup characters beyond the Baron in those first 4 issues. But I can tell you that going into the second arc, the next 4 issues, there are absolutely some other Valiant characters who are going to be showing up. Some fan favorite villains for Shadowman showing up. So there's lots of interesting stuff on the way. But even when those characters show up, I think that it will be in ways you don't necessarily expect.
Awesome.
Absolutely. One thing with Punk Mambo that I was really, not critical on, but I was hyper focused on, because I've gone to Port-au-Prince probably 15 times and got really around in the voodoo, was the great job of really, putting out that voodoo vibe that happened in that. And I just curious on what you've studied, what you pulled up on that to have that. I mean, obviously Baron Samedi is rich with voodoo lore, and where you go from there.
Well, it's tough in terms of researching. I mean, I did a lot of research on it. I pulled a lot from research I've done in the past for other projects I've worked on and things like that. But I dug in quite a bit and did, I wanted it to feel authentic, but it had to feel authentic within the Valiant universe, which, is a superhero universe. So it's gonna change the tone of that a little bit. But yeah, I did my fair share, and it's also nice that that Valiant has lots of documentation on their supernatural side that they were able to give me, to act sort of like a springboard for what's to come.
I'm curious, going along with that, how much of your work on Bone Parish influenced some of what you have here, because it's kind of in a similar setting.
Well, yeah, Bone Parish obviously, is heavy duty New Orleans, and it was, everything was, baked in New Orleans in Bone Parish, and that influenced probably Punk Mambo maybe a little more than even Shadowman, because as much as I loved New Orleans as a setting, something I wanted to do that's different with this run on Shadowman is he's not going to be in New Orleans every issue. In fact, he's in different locations every issue of the series. You're going to see him in some different place. It's going to be his influence is spreading. He's going to be doing a lot more globe hopping. New Orleans will play a role in it. Has to. It's Shadowman, but you're going to see him in some very different places all over the world.
I'm so excited to see that big moment for Shadowman to kind of expand like that. I want to dive into the horror elements. I know you were introduced as a master of horror with the announcement of this book, but Jon Davis-Hunt is really pulling through with some horrifying artwork and design work. So what has the collaboration process been like in really bringing horror to the forefront with Jon Davis and the rest of the team as well?
Well, he's such a great artist anyway, and if you're familiar with his stuff that he's done in the past, I mean, he's obviously got horror chops to do this kind of book, and the collaboration's awesome. I typically, my scripts, I give enough information that the artist, the artist knows kind of what I have in mind, but can then take it and do whatever they need to do to really bring it to life. And there are a lot of creepy creatures in this series, and Jon just does such a great job with it. One of my favorites that comes up in issue 2. I just love this creature he designed, because as I was writing it, I was like, this is going to be the most ridiculous thing ever. Let's see if you can pull this off. And it was almost like a challenge to him, but it's really he just did such a great job. And not just the creatures, there's some new characters who are going to be showing up and playing a much bigger role in Shadowman and in Valiant, and he's done such a terrific job of designing those characters.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, speaking of like design and just the general feel, and also we were just talking about like your influences going into this particular Shadowman has a very similar vibe to like the like classic like 90s, very like jazz, smooth, even with like the gore and the violence and everything else. You know what I mean? Like it's got like that classic feel, like modernized. Like you could almost just take this and put it at the end of the original from like 95. Was that like intentional? Like did you draw on that run in particular, or was it like a little bit of each Shadowman leading up to it? Like how did that come about?
I feel like it's a little bit of all the Shadowman stories, although I absolutely drew inspiration from some of those sort of occult investigator and occult hero stories from the 90s. That those stories just meant a lot to me for at the time I was reading them, and they've stuck with me all these years. So I absolutely drew some inspiration from those stories. But as far as Shadowman goes, I wanted it to feel, I wanted to just be true to Shadowman. It's a little bit different. I felt like I had a good opportunity to do some things different because his connection to the Shadow Loa changed, and his powers are expanding. So that gave us a chance to do something new, or to kind of introduce some new take on the character. But I wanted everything that's come before to still matter.
That's awesome. And then in the chat, thank you, Nicholas Brush, for the chat money, whatever you want to call it. He has a question: is Shadowman a good starting point? And I think that leads right into that question that Ken had about being good to the continuity, but also being a great place to jump on if this is the first time taking Shadowman.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, that's what the readers are going to, my goal with it was that it would be an easy intro to the character. If you've never read Shadowman before, you could pick this up and you know who Shadowman is. You might not know all the ins and outs of the character right away, but you know enough to enjoy that story from the jump. So that was my goal with it. And really that's my goal with every issue of this series. If someone picks up issue 3 or issue 4 that's the first issue of Shadowman they read, I don't want them to be lost. I want them to understand what's going on and get a good feel for who this character is.
Yeah, I think that's something that I noticed personally, was that balance between trying to take the character in a fresh new direction while also paying homage to what's come before and paying attention to the continuity, which I think is something that a lot of us love about Valiant, is the sense of continuity, the sense of the shared universe. And And
yeah, I mean that's the beauty of a shared universe, right? You know, I don't want to jump into a shared universe and just ignore everything that came before. That it's that's to me that's not what makes writing a character like this fun. Part of the fun is you're playing in a bigger world, and the events that befall this character can have ramifications in the rest of the universe.
Yeah, and I mean that's the hope, right? I mean, for us as fans, is to see like if we're really enjoying a series like Shadowman is going really well, we want to see how that's impacting the other characters and the rest of the universe. I think that's really exciting for a lot of us as fans.
Yeah. And I think there's some stuff coming up. There's some big events in this series that I think can really play a role in Valiant as a whole.
That's always great, especially with the shared universe of Valiant when it's running on all cylinders. It's synergy, right? Every book's helping sell every book by the way they're working together, in and out and weaving. I'm hoping that kind of goes more into that. And was that talked a lot about within the building of this run that we're going to be having here?
I talked a lot about it.
Good.
I have a lot of big dreams for the supernatural side of Valiant and for Shadowman, and how that will, how Shadowman can, kind of step to the forefront a little bit. So I definitely have been rattling that cage a little bit.
Nice. And so I want to ask everybody here that's in this chat, favorite moment of issue number 1. Kind of throwing that out there to all you guys. What was your favorite moment number 1?
I can definitely go first, because it's probably one of the more grotesque moments when you get the person walking out and they just explode and all the bugs and like green goo and blood and everything goes out. It's so gory, and that was the moment where I was like, this is a real horror book and I'm so here for it.
That was an amazing moment.
Yeah, it was so gross.
It was absolutely gross and amazing. I think my favorite thing from the issue was the interplay between Jack and Baron Samedi, because the Baron is always such an enigmatic character. You never really know what you're going to get from him and how he's going to try to steer Jack, because he usually has an ulterior motive to anything that he's doing. So I really enjoyed the interactions between the two of them, and I looked forward to seeing how that kind of plays out and whether there is, something else going on that the Baron isn't telling Jack about.
Yeah, and I can tell you this: that Jon Davis-Hunt can draw a conversation between the Baron and Shadowman. I mean, there's conversations in upcoming issues that I just smile at, because he puts so much energy into having these two talk, and it's really great.
What about you, Martin and Ken?
All right, I had two things.
Go ahead, Ken. Go ahead.
All right, so the first one, I'm super pumped to see Shadowman exploring like more new powers and stuff, and like the scythe like extending, kind of like Ivy from Soul Calibur. You know what I mean? Like that was just buck wild. But the other thing, and this is kind of more of like a character theme, I guess that you could say, is the confidence. Like when Jack first shows up and he just handles dude, slices his throat, and he's like, I could have helped you if you weren't out killing innocent people, but you got to go now. Like that's just how it is, homie. Sorry about your luck. But that's something's been missing from Shadowman. We've seen him like, oh, woe is me, the lowest sucks. You know what I mean? But this is like, I'm Shadow. And it's like, yes, that's what I've been waiting for so long.
Yes.
Yes. I was like a kid on Christmas. I loved it, man. So that's those two things are probably the most that stand out, aside from like the interaction with the student. Great call.
Martin, what about you?
My moments are actually a little bit smaller than yours, I think. I agree with Ken. I love the confidence, because Jack seems to have been kind of emo Jack for a little while, and so I like to see him bring back the badassness. But some of my favorite things were just I've been reading Valiant for 30 years, right? So I always look for references to other things in other comics, And I think it was Nick that mentioned the original Shadowman run. When I first read this issue, my initial reaction was, this is the best Shadowman since Bob Hall. And one thing that Bob Hall did really well was interweave a lot of the New Orleans culture, but then the musical culture as well. And there's a lot of little things that get dropped in this issue that reference the music, right? From the cover, right, where he's wearing that crossrod blue shirt, when the sax shows up, like all these things, like those little moments meant a lot more to me than any of the big, like splashy stuff that was happening in the book. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think I was going to be right there with you on that, Martin. Was that sax reference? Was like, oh yes, we're really digging into continuity. It's there, and it was fan service too. I mean, I loved it. So all the ones that have been around Shadowman forever. So
buckle up, music lovers, because I just wrote a big scene of Jack playing the saxophone. So it's coming down the line. So
Nice.
That is definitely awesome. Oh man.
Well, I had a question with regards to that, though. Cullen, you're as a Southern man, you're very well steeped in Southern culture, and I'm curious how you're gonna play some of that into the mythology, expanding the mythology of Shadowman, particularly in terms of the music, right, with the blues and all that. But I'm curious in general.
Well, I think it's tough for me to pull any one element out that I'm like, okay, I'm infusing this with some part of the South, because I feel like almost everything I do a little bit of that comes across no matter what. But I feel like Jack's personality to some degree is really, I'm trying to bring the Southern into that a little bit.
Yeah.
And look, I like heroes sometimes that are sort of emo when they come to their powers. I like it. I always have, but, and I'm not saying that Jack won't be at some point emo when it comes to his powers in this arc, but I remember, I think back when I was working in a comic shop back in the original days of the original Valiant, and I had a coworker who would make fun of me for the books I liked. And he would make fun of some character. I won't even name the character because you guys might make fun of me. There's a character I really liked that was coming out back in the day. And this coworker of mine would always say, oh, I hate that guy. He's always like, oh, my powers hurt. My powers make me sad. And I keep that in mind when I'm writing a character. No matter what, I can't help but think, I'm not writing that character now. I'm not writing something that someone's going, oh, my powers hurt.
I think that's just a journey that we've seen Jack go on since he was reintroduced to the current Valiant universe, and he's been through that stage, and he went through the whole being the Magpie, and he's kind of come out the other side of that with more confidence and with more control over himself and his relationship to the Shadowman Loa, and there were those moments like what Ken was talking about in the beginning of the book, and then that moment when he's going into the party, it was almost like a John Wick moment, was what it felt like to me when he takes out the security guards or whatever.
That's my favorite moment, by the way. Even though I loved all the horror stuff, my favorite moment in that issue is when he's getting into the party and he's like, I don't need the shadow, I don't need the Loa for this. Let me just say yeah,
that was awesome when the way that was written with the I can bend shadows to my will, but I don't really need that right now. I'll just take these guys out with my hands. That was really cool, I thought. And that was something that I don't think we would have seen. I don't think we could have gotten that from Jack in the previous runs that this character has seen in the current iteration of the Valiant universe. And even though it would have been out of place in the previous books, he's come to a point now where it feels totally natural and right for him to be like that. So I feel like one thing I really liked about this issue was it felt like it was following the progression of the character that's been set up since he came back and Justin Jordan was writing it.
Yeah, definitely trying to for sure. I want this character to be confident and to kind of have he's got that power behind him, so he's confident, because the stuff he's going to come up against is going to be extremely nasty. So I mean, he's going to have some tough challenges ahead for him.
Nice.
So cool.
In one of our chats, one of people in the chat had asked if we may be seeing Master Dark. It may be a massive crossover event that may bring Master Dark back to the shade.
Everybody wants this
Shadowman.
Everybody wants this massive crossover event. All I can say to Sean is wait and see, Sean. Wait and see.
Perfect.
That's a comic book fan's favorite answer. Wait and see.
Let me just spoil it so you don't have to read it. What do you guys got? Go ahead and feel free to jump in.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to dig in a little bit into sort of the catalyst of what brings us this Shadowman series, because he is still a superhero in the Valiant universe, even though it's a lot darker and a little bit different from some of the other titles. But there are breaches happening in the dead side, and something is getting to where it's going to pull Shadowman outside of New Orleans and kind of put him in the position to be a superhero outside of the grotesque horrors that are happening. So could you talk a little bit about sort of that catalyst that's sending him off as a hero?
Well, yeah. So the big, the big thing that I can talk about is that there are these blights that are spreading out all over the world, and these blights are caused. They're thinnings. It's a thinning between the veil between our world and the dead side, and they're caused by acts of violence, acts of hatred, acts of sorrow, events that are very sorrowful, disasters. Everywhere those things happen, the veil between the worlds starts to thin, and things from the dead side can bleed over into our world. Because the only person who really should be crossing back and forth between the dead side and our world is Shadowman. But now with these blights starting to form, it's becoming more and more common. And the one thing, this is probably a spoiler. So if any of the Valiant people are listening, they don't get to. They can just mute their mics, mute it for a second. The thing is, it seems like it's orchestrated, though. Shadowman's going to start finding that these blights aren't necessarily random occurrences. There's the big spoiler for you.
Oh boy,
That's juicy.
Yes, can we please have an Aerosmith cameo?
They're blaming it on Steven Tyler.
Oh, look, see, I knew someone from Valiant was going to be there.
Yeah, Greg just had a heart attack.
What up, Greg?
That's really exciting. Just I know, like I said before, kind of with the relationship between the Baron and Shadowman, like I'm excited to see how it builds out, and knowing that there's going to be this bigger story about these blights and what's behind it and what's really going on. That's really exciting, because we get obviously the horror elements, but knowing that there's that mystery element to it as well, and saying like, there's something bigger at play here than Jack is going to be aware of at first. I'm really excited to see that play out. Like that's definitely something.
Yeah, it's as much as I want these issues to stand on their own and be individual stories, there's a much bigger story at play. And every issue, you're going to get a little bit more about that bigger story. And then, it's obviously it's moving towards, a big climax event or whatever. But there's some interesting stuff up ahead.
And then J. Rob is asking if we're going to see a specific monkey maybe that may show up. I know a lot of us enjoyed him during the Justin Jordan run. So, Jaunty,
you're gonna have to wait and see on that.
Love it.
Perfect.
Good.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Giant company crossover confirmed.
Is it? Yeah.
Nice.
To be fair, Matt Klein did say, like, several times when he came on, that there was something coming. So, is there any? All right, hold on. How do I beg for spoilers without making it obvious? I don't know. I'll circle back to that.
Circle way back.
Was there a favorite part of getting to work with this character for you? Is there anything that stands out to you as this is the best thing about getting to work on Shadowman?
Well, it has always kind of surprised me that none of the other shared universe folks have ever called on me to write this kind of character. And really, as much as I like all the other stuff I've written for other publishers, it's always kind of shocked me that they never wanted to lean on me to write a character like this. I got some of that with Punk Mambo. I was like, oh, okay, finally, someone's letting me cut loose on this kind of character. And then with Shadowman, it's even more so, because I think we're leaning even more into the horror vibe, and every issue kind of touches on a different subgenre of horror, and there's different kinds of weirdness surfacing up. So it's just fun to finally be writing this kind of character that is like I said, is at play in a bigger universe. But then I love being able to just deal with different elements of horror and actually feel like I'm contributing to this supernatural side. I mean, we're pulling in some, I'm circling around on that spoiler there. We're trying to make some, we're trying to shake things up a little bit.
Good. I think that's awesome. Like, like you kind of said, the great thing about being in a shared universe is getting to impact the wider universe.
Yeah.
Obviously, Shadowman kind of has his place in this niche of the universe where, it's the magical and, voodoo and all that stuff. But obviously, if he's dealing with world-changing events, things that are taking place all around the world and have bigger implications, it would make sense for other characters to get involved and to notice what's going on. So that's really exciting to know that there is the possibility of seeing something like that down the road. Obviously, how it all plays out is for us yet to be determined, but that's definitely something that's really exciting as a fan.
Awesome.
I've got a non-horror question.
Okay.
Well, actually, I mean, it's mildly related. I mean, you're the horror guy, but now you're in the Valiant universe, and there's plenty of non-horror books. So if you had to take a stab at another Valiant property that wasn't Mambo or Dr. Mirage or Shadowman, who would you pick?
So I go back and forth on this. I think Bloodshot sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I also like Ninja quite a bit too. I mean, it's just, it's just. I think I'd probably lean towards Bloodshot would be my first pick.
Cullen and Bloodshot confirmed. All right, cool.
All right.
As
we know he's coming back after that.
I didn't realize it was that easy.
Now it's happening.
Yep.
No, I'm just trying to plant some seeds. Here's the thing. I think Valiant's always had some really talented writers.
Yep.
And there was a period of time where we had like a core group of writers that were writing everything, right? So like when Matt was there and Venditti and all those guys. And there's been people coming in and out of books, and I think for myself, and I'm sure I can speak for a lot of other Valiant fans, we'd love to see a core group of writers get involved in the universe and really shape it and make it something that we really want to see. People that
Sure.
are really passionate about the books.
Right.
And you have a great passion for comics, right? So that's kind of why I threw that out there.
Yeah, I got you.
No, for me, I mean, if I'm dreamcasting right now, what comes to my mind is Dan Abnett and you, Cullen. Like, I think you are both characters who've shown an ability to come into the universe, respect what's come before, and also add your own flavor to it. And I think that's exactly what a lot of us want as Valiant fans. We want to see that respect for continuity while also moving it in fresh new directions. And, having that take on, like if someone like, yourself and like Dan Abnett or somebody else, were to each be writing a couple of books and moving the universe in a unified direction, I think that would be ideal.
Did you hear that? That was the sound of dozens of Valiant editors crying out in panic at the idea of trying to coordinate that kind of event. It's. I mean, look. I think. I love that kind of stuff. It is absolutely a very difficult job. It's hard to manage all those different moving pieces. Yeah, I mean, it would be very cool. It is a lot of work.
Definitely.
Can't imagine.
Talk a little bit about some of the moving pieces we've seen at Valiant and what it means for Shadowman. Like we said at the beginning, Heather was kind of some of the lead editor. We talked to her a little bit about what brought about Shadowman at the Valiant Watch channel and how it was always kind of like a no-brainer to bring horror into Shadowman. So what does it look like now with some moving pieces behind the scenes at Valiant, and how does that impact your work on the series and what it might do moving forward?
I don't feel like the direction that I had planned from the beginning isn't changing right now. I mean, we're already moving forward into the issues I'm writing now. And I don't feel, every time every time there are changes, it can definitely lead to the possibility of it upends, work that has already been planned. But in this case, the beauty of it all is, even if we hadn't had the pandemic, which delayed the book, Shadowman was planned out, a year before it was planned to come out originally. So, I mean, we've been working on this book for a couple of years. So the plan is well under, everybody knows what that plan is. And I feel like the team is still moving forward with what I had put together. But definitely, it actually took me by surprise when I first started working on, even when I was working on Punk Mambo. Valiant really works well ahead. They aren't, I was never felt like I was running to play catch up because they were working so well ahead, of the schedule.
Yeah. And that's really exciting to hear, because honestly, when I saw Heather's going to IDW, I'm super excited for that. My first thought was Shadowman. I'm so hyped for this. Like, I hope it's still on track and doing well.
I think you'll be okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think the team there is going to do great things there. And just a question. I know we talked about future characters. Was there anybody that was off the table for you to play with when you say there may be some more people coming back in?
Let me think here. I don't remember. There's not been an instance where I've said, can we put this character in, that I've been told no. So no, it's been pretty open, and like I said, we're doing some, some of these characters are going to show up and it's not going to be what you expect. So it's been pretty open it's been pretty open in terms of me using whatever characters I want to, and then pretty open in terms of my interpretation.
Awesome. And I know you associate with some Valiant people like Martin on the bungalow at Nerdy Legion. How much Valiant have you gotten into prior to this, or prior to Shadowman in Punk Mambo?
So obviously I was working in a comic shop in the early days, the original run, the original Valiant stuff. So I was familiar with all that. When Matt Kent was working on a lot of Valiant stuff, Matt's a good friend of mine, and I really got into a lot of the stuff especially when he was writing it, because he always had them at his studio. Even if I wasn't able to get them, he had stacks of these books at the studio, and I dig into those there. So I got into it pretty heavily when Matt and Jeff were working on the stuff. I was reading a lot of that. And then just to keep on top of things that are going on right now, just anything that's coming out right now, I've been reading, even stuff by Dennis Hopeless, which is just an awful pain to read any Dennis Hopeless material. But
I think that's what we had in the chat. It said, somebody please have you take over EXO for Dennis.
No, look, actually, I really like what Dennis is doing with EXO. As much as he's an awful monster of a human being, I like it.
Awesome.
So you mentioned earlier that Valiant likes to plan stuff like well in ahead. That being the case, at the end of Punk Mambo, huge, surprise twist, like premium, like when M. Night Shyamalan doesn't suck level. You know what I mean? So like, when are we gonna? Is there any plans for like Punk Mambo Volume 2 that we can tell us about? I mean, obviously there's probably something in the ether. But
I feel like Greg's gonna pop in again with a virtual punch.
you blame that all on Adam. He's already posted a bunch of pictures of Punk Mambo, so it's all.
So here's what I'll say: I'm not done with Punk Mambo.
Nice.
So
that's good to hear, because that book was amazing.
Yeah, it's hard not to say, it's hard not to get so excited when we know you've done such great work on Punk Mambo, and then this awesome Shadowman series happens, and the two work really well together. That's kind of a no-brainer too. And Cullen Bunn attached. I mean,
yeah, I really love the character Punk Mambo. I wasn't sure when I took that series if I how much I would like the character, but I just. I fell in love. She's such a great character. So, keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes peeled. And yeah, anything that happened in the Punk Mambo series plays out across whatever I'm doing next with her. So.
That was a very good answer. Also, I've been bothering since Punk Mambo ended and the news came out that you were doing Shadowman. I've been bothering like literally every guest, like Heather. I'm very certain is ready to punch me in the face. She's been like, "When are we gonna get the Shadowman Punk Mambo crossover? Like, I know you're gonna do it. Just let it happen. You got Cullen Bunn. There's no way it's not gonna happen." I guess I can chill on that for a little bit now with that answer.
Yeah, just stay tuned. I got you. I got you on this one.
Nice.
yes.
Awesome.
Nice. All right. Keep going. And so what was I going to ask? You guys go ahead. My question just escaped me. I'm in Vegas. Things are happening.
It's a crazy time.
Now you can't tell us what's happening. Whatever happens there stays there. You are breaking the rules of Vegas right now.
If I only tell you what I heard walking down the hall in the hotel just a while ago on the way over here, it was, that's not for YouTube.
Vegas is a crazy place. I don't know. I can't say enough how much fun this issue was. And finally getting this character back, getting to see the interaction with him and the Baron. I'm really excited to see what we find out about that woman that was showing up near the end. There's just so much going on here, knowing what's going on with the Blights, that there's a bigger story at play. It seems like there are a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot more left to be revealed. So I'm just really excited to see what the next issue brings and the one after that, and hope that we get a long run, and bring in the rest of the universe. And
I'm excited for it too. There's some, there were lots of little seeds planted in that first issue that, may or may not be readily obvious. So
Yeah. That's super exciting. I'm so ready for it, really. I want to circle back a little bit to your time when you were at the comic shop and you were kind of engaging with the original Valiant, and what your time like has been now, because we're kind of at a family reunion here with all the Valiant podcasts. This is my second time being on it. It's awesome to be a part of such an awesome group of people who just love Valiant like this. But the Valiant fandom is so unique and so welcoming, and one of the best fandoms I've really ever been a part of. So I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about your experience with the Valiant fandom from the original era to what we see now.
It's when I think back on it, I mean, I remember there being a lot of excitement around Valiant when in that original era, but I feel like the fan base now, I don't know, either they appreciate it more or they're just, I mean, I remember having, when I wasn't working for Valiant, I remember having these conversations with like Matt and saying, you know, these people love Valiant. I mean, they, you know, these fans love these characters. And I just remember how almost it was just I was just in awe of that. You know, is this excitement over the just in general, not just reading the books, not just, you know, following the characters because they followed them for, you know, 20 years or whatever, but just really getting into these characters and really loving those characters. It just seemed like a different vibe to me, just in general. And I don't remember that as much. But of course, back, you got to keep in mind, when I was working at the comic shop, I didn't have the internet. I mean, we had internet, but we didn't have like what it is now. You know, we didn't have these conversations taking place. The conversations were taking place in the comic shop, and that's it. So I remember there being excitement around the books, but I don't remember the sort of the fandom being so into it. Just really, you know, I don't remember it being as you know, dare I say, positive, you know, as it is now.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't always get that. Yeah. You know, you can get fans that just you know, fans that just despise characters. And I've been in plenty of situations. I've been in panels, and I remember this guy saying, you know, I've been reading this character for the last 200 issues, and I hate them. I'm like, why are you still reading it? So
keep buying. And I want to put in the chat, guys, we have a Tony Moore color print, limited to 100, signed by Cullen. So please put in the chat, hashtag Shadowman, and we'll get you guys in to win that. U.S. shipping only. Thank you, Valiant and Greg, for that. Appreciate it.
Whoa, are we eligible for that?
Now, see,
let me get my kids in here to sign up.
I mean, I did put Shadowman hashtag for myself too. So, all right, I gotta get everybody's name down.
So there are actually a ton of awesome covers for Shadowman #1, and
my
God, do you have a favorite?
It's tough to say favorite. There are some really cool ones. I can tell you which one I think is the creepiest. The Raza cover is insanely creepy. That's the one, I think. I mean, I don't have them up here in front of me, but it's the one where there's like the mouse in the stomach or whatever.
Oh yeah,
that's a really creepy cover.
Yeah.
I really look. You get those, you know, whenever you get into a situation where there's just a lot of different covers. Historically speaking, you're going to get one or two that's kind of doesn't really do much for me. But I do think that all of these covers were amazing. I mean, they were really cool covers. Just really neat. Yeah, the Raza one's maybe the most disturbing. Creepy might be the wrong answer. Most disturbing is that Raza cover.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw they were doing like the movie homages, where there's an Us one, and then there's the Halloween one, I was like, they're really leaning into horror, and just little nods like that get me on board.
Yeah, I really feel like all the covers that I saw were just awesome. So I couldn't be happier with that.
And then our friends at Sound of Thunder have their Kickstarter started with their homage to what is that, Iron Maiden? So
yes,
that
the
was
Number
cool.
of the Beast cover. Yeah,
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yep.
It's by the artist is an artist who was one of the first artists I worked with at Marvel way back when. Paul Pelletier. He worked with me on a book called Fear Itself, the Fearless way back when. So it's neat to see him on this cover for sure. Yeah, and that Kickstarter, I mean, it looks really cool. It's people should check that out.
and then I just love the one that Martin, you mentioned it first, that Crossroad Blues shirt on that. I think that's the A cover, right? Just
Yes.
that is so that one is great. Like that's perfect A cover, and I just love that callback to Crossroad Blues. So
Yep. Yeah, I really like the Cowabunga. They're doing a 4 issue set. And I guess they can't release covers 3 and 4 yet because they might have little spoilers for what's inside.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those variants for 3 and 4 that I've gotten sneak peeks of. And yeah, some of them are very are spoiler heavy.
So speaking of music, was it like last week? I think it was. You dropped a playlist for Shadowman. So could you tell us a little bit about how that formulated? Like, was it just stuff that you were just listening to while you were writing it, and you were like, Jack would totally jam that? Or did you kind of have was it like a preconceived kind of thing?
To some degree, it's stuff I listen to. Although I wouldn't say most of it's not stuff I was listening to, because I can't, when I'm writing, I can't listen to anything with lyrics. I typically have to have no lyrics or I get too distracted. But I've been doing a lot of playlists lately for all of my books. And my wife, who is, she loves music the way I love comics. So my wife, I gave her Shadowman, and I said, okay, you read this and you help me put together a playlist. So she usually takes first pass at it. She goes and she pulls in songs. She reads the comics. She pulls in songs she thinks fit in, and then she shows it to me, and I add a few here and there if I had some very specific songs in mind. But she always surprises me with the kind of stuff that she picks for the book. It's but she does a lot of the heavy lifting on those initially. We talk. It's almost like collaborating on a comic in general. We talk about what we're thinking. We talk about what I have in mind. Then she goes and makes it better. So
nice.
Are you?
They got him. Vegas got him.
Vegas got him.
I'm gonna call Secret Troy.
Oh, dang.
He's back. Vegas
right.
didn't
I don't know if we got that, but I was asking if you knew if there's going to be any gaps in publication between arcs. Is it going to just run straight through?
I don't know. I think there probably will be some maybe skip months or whatever, but I'm not. Don't hold me to that. Okay. I don't know what the plan is, to be honest.
We'll get that on Greg. Yeah. All right. And we are going to put that out too. Again, guys, make sure you're putting hashtag Shadowman in the chat so we can get you in there. We'll run that here in just a moment. Got a good number of people, so that's awesome. So, all right. Would you have? I loved your X-Men that you did. I like your X-Men Blue. Would you feel about doing a team up book like that? Something of a full team book
for Valiant?
For Valiant.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. It'd be interesting to see what my take, because I don't even know what my take on something like, Unity or whatever would be. But it's one of those things. I'd love to see what it looks like. I'd love to make that happen.
Because I think I heard Martin say it. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Martin. But Unity Black, like Unity
Dark.
Yeah, there
like
you go.
Like a Justice League Dark. Now, you talk about that. Look, I got you. I'm all in. I'll send the pitch to that over tonight if someone wants it. So.
And let's make it dark with a QUE instead of a K.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, come on.
So that's confirmed.
I'm getting my money out right now.
Coming in 2022.
That's right.
Right. All right, guys. So I'm going to do a run. I got a little. Usually we do it the old school. We put the name in the hat, but this time I'm going to run off of a little spin the wheel. Got everybody's name in here, and I just got one new name in there. So let me get that Patrick in there. Just perfect timing, Patrick. this is a awesome cover. I like this Tony Moore cover. So let's tap to spin. I don't know if you can see it, but
We see it.
it's somebody.
The winner is Cullen Bunn.
All right. So it's kind of weird. It says Facebook user because it doesn't say their name. So I'm gonna have to find out who you are. Facebook user that did the hashtag with the smile. You just won. Message me on Facebook because StreamYard's not showing your name. So congratulations on whoever you are. That rocks.
That was me.
That was me.
It's everybody's
Martin. It's Martin. Okay. Congratulations, Martin.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so let me know. We'll have Greg get that out to you guys. All right. And anything else? What else do you guys got? Let's can't let Colin off this easy.
Right. I mean, since we're here, I'm a pretty big horror buff. I Halloween is the time. That's like my end of year celebration, pretty much.
Yeah.
What is some of the biggest horror influences you have that both comes into your writing and also sort of your personal enjoyment of the genre?
Great question.
It's it's a mix. I like a lot of before I was writing comics, I was really into I was writing a lot of prose and submitting a lot of short stories to horror magazines. I was reading a lot of that stuff. And before I did that, I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist. So I was digging deep into, horror movies and the people who make horror movies. So if you go into, fiction, people like Thomas Ligotti is an influence, Joe Lansdale, if you go into movies, we're talking, film. It's John Carpenter's a huge influence. Dave Cronenberg is a huge influence. I mean, it's hard to say Stephen King's not an influence because his stuff has been so prevalent and was such a big big part of the genre. But I could probably go if I've sat down and really thought about it, I could go for days and days. I used to have a book. It's probably still. I used to have a book somewhere near my my desk that was just a notebook full of what I considered my influences, and I would just write lists of things that I was like, oh yeah, I'm influenced by these things, and I would list movies and music and artists and writers that that I considered influence. I stopped keeping up with that book, but I think it's somewhere right up here near me. It's one of these books anyway. But I could probably go for a long time naming influences.
I love that. And honestly, there is a bit of a Cronenberg influence in Shadowman #1 with what was probably my favorite scene.
Yeah.
A lot of body distortion and some pretty gross effects there.
Yeah, I could see that. I kind of felt like when I was working on Shadow, the first issue, I felt was a little more Clive Barker-esque. I thought there was a little more Clive Barker influence showing, which I'm fine with. Barker's a big influence for me as well. So, but I'll take a Cronenberg. I'll take Cronenberg.
Since we're already tapping you to write a couple more books that we've already confirmed and decided are happening,
I'm really glad I came on tonight because I didn't know how easy it was.
we got you covered, man. You're going to be in work for a while.
You got all three podcasts here. We are official, so.
I was just curious. Are there any, other creators that you would, really want to bring into the Valiant universe and work on another project with? Like, does anybody jump to mind that either has done Valiant or maybe hasn't done Valiant that you would, want to collaborate with? Whether that be other writers, because we've seen great multiple writer team projects at Valiant, or artists.
Yeah, there are so many artists I'd like to work with on, on Valiant. On Valiant projects. I'd like to see Brian Hurt, who I've done, books like The Sixth Gun and The Damned. I think he'd do he'd do something great with Valiant. Layla Lays, who I'm doing a book with right now. I think last book you'll ever read. She would do an amazing job on some Valiant. So there's some Valiant stuff I could just see her just just destroying in the very best way. So there's a lot of other creators I'd love to see come over and do some things for sure.
Fair enough.
Nice. And then what do you also have? Is it bite-sized for you? A couple other books coming out as well?
Well, Bite Size is coming out in trade.
Okay.
From AWA. That comes out in trade here in the next maybe couple of weeks, I think.
Nice.
And then I've got new books from in addition to Shadowman, I've got some new Aftershock stuff coming out. I've got some I've got a new book from Boom coming out called Basilisk. So I've got a ton of new books. It's being over the next 12 to 16 months is going to be very busy. So in terms of books coming out, and anybody who wants to keep track of all that.
Well, check out the Twitter. We also have the
go.
Comic Forecast here.
Yeah,
and,
you can follow it on. If you follow me on Twitter or follow my newsletter or my website, you'll be able to keep track of all that stuff. Because I'm going to have to blow that Comics Forecast up into 2 rows now, I think, because there's so much coming out now.
That sounds like a good problem, right?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Parasomnia looks amazing. That's one of the ones I'm the most excited for with Dark Horse. So, yes. So
it's going to be a fun year. Just a lot of very different books coming out that I think people are really going to get a kick out of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I read that Venom of the Skin, and that was sick, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
And, but I've also checked out, I've read your X-Men, Bite Size. I'm going to be pre-ordering. So you're mostly known for horror, but you do a lot of different genres. Does it ever feel like how do you balance writing all of those different genres? Do you ever is any one particular horror has to be riding a bike at this point, right?
Well, I definitely probably feel the most comfortable writing horror stuff. But it's any of these things that I do, it's because I love I write them because I love those genres. I write superhero stuff because I love I grew up reading superheroes. I write horror stuff because it's because I'm messed up in some way. But I like and I probably will always gravitate back towards horror, but I like all these other genres just as much. And I especially like with horror, I like that there are so many sort of subgenres that I can play in.
Yes, I'm glad you have a channel for something like that to get all of that stuff out, because we'd be worried otherwise.
Yeah, I know. I would be
that's awesome. And any other big events? Anything else you wanted to share with the viewers? Where to find you? Where to follow you? I know you got the like you mentioned the news list, the mail list. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think if you follow me on Twitter, it's just at Cullen Bunn. That's the easiest way to get to everything else. But yeah, I have a new newsletter that comes out that you can get to from there. I have a Discord server that you can get to from there. I have all sorts of things that can help you keep up with the books that I have coming out and the different nonsense I'm up to.
Awesome. And we are plug-in podcasts too, and so I know you're on the Nerdy Legion. So if you guys wanted to plug in what you have there.
Yeah, so my wife and I do a podcast called The Bungalow that is just us talking about life and the fact that I'm into comics and Godzilla and nonsense and horror, and she's not into any of those things. So it's how you balance that life. That's what I think of. I've determined it. That's what it's about. It's just figuring out how you balance two very different sets of interests.
That's awesome.
Your wife is a national treasure, so
I agree. And I'm sure she agrees. But yeah, so we do that. And like I said, you can get to any of that stuff from my website, which is cullenbunn.com, or from my Twitter, which is at Cullen Bunn.
Awesome. And I'll make sure on the replay of this, guys, that everybody will have a link for Valiant Central, for Valiant Watch, for everything the Cullen links. We'll get that stuff in there for everybody. But enough. I mean, we got to get all the books, pre-order, make sure they're on your pull list. We want a long run. We all cry about it, so we need to do something about it. And that's make sure everything's on your pull list. I can't say that enough. So money talks and bullshit walks. So let's do it. So
well, just before I hop off, guys, I want to thank everybody who picked up the book, everybody who has been so supportive. It's been a long time coming. We expected, the world conspired against Shadowman for a little bit, but the fact that so many people stuck with us and were so excited over the book and got us to this point, and just really, I can't thank you guys enough.
It's a pleasure having you in the Valiant family. So,
yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for chatting with us and listening to us, go on about our thoughts about, your work and Shadowman and Valiant. And yeah, we're really happy to have had you.
Well, I appreciate it. It was fun to be here.
All right. We definitely appreciate it so much, Cullen. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. And everyone else, we want to thank everybody for else jumping on. Any parting words that you guys have for yourselves?
Thank y'all, give Valiant. Thank everybody for joining. Like the Valiant family for being here together. This is what it's all about, and couldn't be happier to be a part of it.
Yep.
Support your local comic shop. Buy more comics. Stay Valiant. And thanks for having us again, guys. Last year was a blast. This year was a blast. Here's to hopefully.
Yeah, let's do it again soon.
Yes. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Want to thank you all for jumping on. Hit like it, subscribe on all of the channels, all that fun stuff that you do on YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Twitters. We appreciate everybody. Later. Maybe later.